growing up in Lisbon, I've seen the city change a lot over the last couple of years, and in many senses for the better. There are a lot of investment projects in the center that improve the infrastructure of the city. Entertainment options increased substantially, and the city gained this more vibrant look, let's say. But at the same time, I also started hearing more residents and locals complaining about the potential consequences of the huge increase in tourism. And then when I moved to Florence 2 years ago, I faced kind of a similar situation. My research project focuses on understanding how tourism through short-term rental platforms can affect our neighborhoods. And in particular, I use Florence to look at how the rapid increase in these platforms can affect local businesses and where residents decide to live. I would say I have two main outcomes of interest. The first one is residential migration, and the second one is local business transformation. What I do is that I look at the trends in residential migration, and I pay particular attention to some of the characteristics of the individuals that are moving in and out of Florence. And then on the other hand, in terms of business transformation, there are already a few studies that suggest that the increase in these short-term rental platforms can increase also tourist-oriented businesses, for example, restaurants, bars, travel agencies, and sometimes even at the expense of resident-oriented ones like grocery stores or supermarkets and so on. And so what I want to do is to see if this is also the case in Florence, and eventually also understand a bit more about these types of businesses that are coming up in response to this increase in tourism pressure, for example, in terms of size, in terms of ownership, in terms of turnover. Why now? Why are we hearing so many complaints now? Because for many of these cities, tourism has been here for quite some time. But what I think makes today's developments different and in some sense much more challenging is kind of a combination of two factors. On the one hand, the ease of travel that we have nowadays, and on the other hand, which is what I focus on in this project, is the arrival of short-term rental platforms like Airbnb, for example. This combination of two factors fundamentally changed the tourism markets, especially in terms of who travels and where they stay. I would say I'm facing two main challenges. The first one is gathering the data that I need and making sense of it. But in particular, this project uses data at a very granular level. For example, in terms of short-term rental listings, but also changes of residence and firm data, which is very hard to work with and to get. So I'm working with the Comune di Firenze to collect this data. I'm super grateful for their support because this is very difficult information to get. And the second challenge, I would say, is to tear apart the impact of the expansion of these platforms on neighborhood change. Because in this case, establishing cause and effect and actually pinning down cause and effect is quite challenging because of course there may be other factors happening at the same time, for example the expansion of the tram line or lower transportation costs that obviously also affect where people decide to move. And then the potential for spillover effects in this project is huge because of course it does not only matter if my neighborhood is highly affected by short-term rental platforms and tourism, but also if the neighborhood next to it is affected or the one afterwards. The public debate is very much polarized, and I'm hoping that my research can bring clear evidence on how these short-term rental platforms and tourism are affecting our neighborhoods. Because these recent trends often have consequences that are not always obvious, and so understanding them better, I hope, can help local governments, on the one hand, grasp the most benefits and the many benefits that tourism has to their community, while ensuring at the same time that the local population is not harmed, that the benefits stay within the local community, and that the city remains livable.